The Raptors take this one handily over the Washington Wizards, 132-102. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Paul Jones, Eric Smith, and Jevohn Shepherd. Jevohn, I'll start with you. Trent Jr. inserted into the starting lineup, Schroeder to the bench. What kind of an impact did that move have on the Raptors' performance tonight?
Well, with this lineup here, you're obviously bigger with Scotty running the point. And I think it just forces your opponent to stay on their toes, be on their heels, so to say. You came out with a victory, so everybody's going to love it. But, just seeing Schroeder come off of the bench and in his minutes, that first sub, I think the team went on a 19-1 run, which gave them a boost there. But you're going to get two different looks with Scotty running the point. He's bigger, more of an open court guy. And then when Schroeder comes into the game, you're going to get more of a half court look and setting up offense, a little bit more pick and roll actions there. So I like it. The team came out with a victory. And I think this is what Darko's going to have to do over the course of the season. Just really rotating lineups, getting different, experimenting with different looks. It's going to be marginal, but the most important thing, it keeps your opponent on their heels.
I was kind of worried. Yeah, I was kind of worried about that, Randy, because, conventional wisdom says you change one guy and everybody says, oh, it was Dennis. Well, no, it's not Dennis, because he still played starters minutes. He played more minutes than Gary, actually, to be honest. He still played starters minutes. That's a role that he's embraced and he's been used to playing coming off the bench in his time in the league. But the trickle down was you change the starting lineup. That saw Malachi Flynn's minutes disappear because Dennis now is running that second unit. And we saw Jaden McDaniels inserted and Jalen and getting those minutes. And some of Precious's minutes dried up. So there was a change to the starting lineup, but the trickle down came through the entire team. And, Eric and I noted on the broadcast, and something that, as Jevohn said, I was kind of keeping track of. In the middle of the second quarter during that run, you had your old previous starting lineup on the floor against the Washington bench. And that was a big part of that run. They when those guys hit the floor together, you were up 5. By the time they were done, you were up 13. So that was a big part of it. And it was nice to see that the offense was firing. Let's hope that they can keep it going against the good teams and not just Washington.
Mm-hmm. Eric, what stood out to you?
I think Jonesy hit on it in terms of what I was really kind of looking at, Randy, Jevohn. The fact that it wasn't just the starters. It was beyond that. I mean, Jonesy talked about Jalen McDaniels getting into the ballgame. It was Otto Porter playing significant minutes as well. So as much as maybe we understandably focused on that one move with Schroeder and Trent, it ended up becoming the rotation, the substitution pattern, even Scotty Barnes going with the second unit or being, a sub a little bit later in that first quarter. And I wonder how much the early foul trouble of both Pascal Siakam and Jakob Poeltl even changed things, because we might not have seen Precious Achiuwa if not for the fact that Yak got into the foul trouble and thus forced Darko Rajakovic to have to go a little bit deeper and to reach into the bench and to bring in Precious. And I thought he responded well and played some decent minutes. So I think that's the biggest thing. And if it goes back to Shep's point about maybe this is a kind of regular thing where you change, if it's not game to game, maybe it's kind of over a couple of games. Maybe it's matchup driven based on who you're playing. And if you now can go with different combinations, I don't think this is a bad thing to be perhaps experimenting a little bit based on how inconsistent this team has been for a few weeks. And maybe this now starts some consistency going forward as we get set to flip the calendar.
Yeah. Jevohn, big story of the game too is the assist total, 43 assists on 52 makes. Like, have you ever seen games like that? That's a pretty crazy stat.
It's a crazy number. That said, they were also playing a G League team, which, Washington's not that great. But no, just to see a number of those guys, and to you guys, to both your points, a number of guys on this team are in different roles tonight, playing different minutes. And the fact that everybody accepted it and was professional about the minutes that they did play, I thought that was a big part of why they were successful as a team, but also individually. And, I thought OG Anunoby had himself a really good night because, there was a couple shots early in the game where didn't even really hit rim. And you were thinking, oh, this is going to be a tough one for OG. But for, one of the first games this season, we really seen him use his size, use his strength, his athleticism. And how many times did we see, opponent defenders hanging off him and he was just playing through that contact? But the ball moving, the ball popping, this is what Coach Darko wants. And if everybody's touching the basketball, everybody's scoring the ball, you're going to be that much more motivated on the defensive end and get a cohesive effort.
And Paul, what performance stood out to you? I thought Pascal Siakam really, really ran the floor well tonight. Obviously, he had a great game.
Yeah, he did. And, we had both he and Scotty Barnes on triple double watch. And I take a look at the assists, 11 assists, 22 points, 11 assists for
Season
Pascal
high
Siakam.
11. Yeah.
Season high 11. And as we talked about with the starting lineup changing, Scotty becoming your primary ball handler, that doesn't preclude Pascal Siakam from being a playmaker himself. And, he's punching into the lane. People will say maybe there's better spacing, there's more shooting around him with Gary on the floor. So, Pascal's been, for the most part, he's been, relatively consistent with his effort and trying to be that lead guy or one of the lead guys on every night for the Raptors.
Eric, let's talk a little bit about the defense. What impressed you on that side of the basketball?
I think it's the way that they responded, Randy, early on that really was the difference, because I can't talk a lot about the defense in the second half, certainly not in the third quarter. It was missing in action on both sides. I mean, the Wizards gave up 70% to the Raptors in the third, and the Raptors gave up 67% to the Wizards in the third. So second half, it was basically the defense was the offense just trying to outscore them. But if we go back to the second quarter, Raptors had taken that 7-point lead, I believe, at the end of one, or 7 points. They had scored 30 plus. Seemed like they had the game in hand. They went up double figures, and in the blink of an eye, Washington made the comeback, cut it to 2. And I looked at Jonesy at one point, one of the timeouts, and I said, okay, here we go again. This is another big lead all of a sudden blown by the Raptors. But what did they do? They took the punch, and they were able to go right back at Washington, build the lead back into double figures. And if not for a late bucket by Kispert at the end of the second quarter, it would have been a double-digit halftime lead. So I thought they responded well, and I think it's everything we've been talking about. I think it was a portion of that starting unit. I think it was the hybrid second unit where we actually saw the now former starters playing together, and also some key contributions from guys like Porter, even Chris Boucher, just changing shots and being active down around the rim. And I think that there was a little bit more length, and there just seemed to be a little bit more energy, a little more pep in the Raptors overall tonight. And you hope that it's just not a one-night thing and that it can carry over into not just Boston, but beyond that as well.
Mm-hmm. Jevohn, let's talk a little more about Scotty and kind of the primary ball handler role. Is that key to his progress? Is that key to him making another jump?
I think that's huge for his development, right? Because he's a natural wing, he's a natural forward that does a number of things on the floor. But when you get to learn the game from a point guard's lens, you also have to learn the other 4 positions on the floor, right? So your IQ level has to go up. You're playing for everybody on the floor, on the court. And we know he does in the open court. I think it's, who is Scotty going to be as a lead guard in the half court? And if he adds that to his game, he's already on triple-double watch this early in his career, nightly. And I think that's going to add so much. And the sky's really the limit for him if he locks in on that. And also having Dennis Schroeder as a teammate, somebody that's willing to just mentor and educate from that lens as well, is going to pay dividends for Scotty. But he does so much. It's hard to really narrow him in or box him into one position. But if he can learn this one, it's going to elevate his game to a completely another level.
Here's the thing that I've been impressed with in that regard, Randy. We know how difficult it is to be the main ball handler and yet contribute as a scorer. There are a lot of guys that get the ball in their hand and they're the main ball handler, and sometimes other guys don't touch the ball. They don't feel like they get involved. And what that leads to is, okay, it's my turn. I got the ball. I'm going to shoot it. I haven't touched it in a while. I'm going to shoot it. And Scotty's always had that in perspective, and something to be careful of, because it's tough to do. Be the main ball handler, distribute, yet be a scoring threat and keep your own scoring up. It's really tough to do. And he's making it look easy right now. I think with Dennis coming off the bench with your second unit, it might give them a boost because they have a more natural playmaker in the second unit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But, Scotty's doing something that's very difficult and making it look easy.
Mm-hmm. Eric, let's talk a little bit about Jordan Poole and the Wizards. Obviously, he's a talented player. When you watch him, though, he seems a little unserious about the game. And it kind of surprises me because of, the organization that he came up with. Does it surprise you?
It surprises me a little bit, but I think it actually plays into, and I mean, he can jump in and cut me off if he thinks I'm misrepresenting. I think it speaks to what Jonesy was just saying about Scotty Barnes, trying to be that guy that's going to be the decision maker in terms of setting guys up, but also knowing that you're a scorer and when you're picking and choosing your spots. And from the games that we've watched, not just against the Raptors, but I'm sure we've all watched other Washington games this year. He seems like a guy that right now might be staring at the record saying, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get mine. I'm going to do it. I'm the scorer. I'm the best player on this team. And you know what? Whether I'm finding Kyle Kuzma, whether I'm finding others, yeah, okay, I'm still going to work the ball times. But at the end of the day, this is my team, and I'm the top dog, and I'm going to get mine. And I think it's become a selfish style at times, and I think it speaks to not just the inconsistency to the team, to the record, and to the offense, but think about their defense. I mean, they're regularly giving up 120, 125 plus a game to whomever the opponent is. And the crazy thing is we focus so much on Detroit going into tonight with a 27-game losing streak. Washington's only 3 wins better. So they might have not lost 27 in a row. This is not a good team. Shep said it earlier. It's a G League team. Well, they don't necessarily have G League talent. They might not be the deepest team in the league, but if they played as a more cohesive unit and not a selfish team and played with a little more unselfishness, they might be better. They might not be 10 wins better, but I think they'd be better. Yeah. That starts with Jordan Poole.
Yeah, real quick, a little overtime. I got about a minute and a half. Jevohn, after Nikola Jokic made 18 free throws in Denver's win over Golden State on Christmas Day, Steve Kerr said, I have a problem on how we are legislating the defense out of the game. We're enabling players to BS their way to the foul line. If I were a fan, I wouldn't have wanted to watch the second half of that game. It was disgusting. It was just baiting refs into calls. Do you agree with Kerr?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jonesy and I have had this conversation a number of times.
Yep.
It's, you look at the scores across the league, 120, 130, 140. There's absolutely no defense right now. And Spo had a quote last year where the entire league is trying to learn how to coach defense right now. And to Steve Kerr's point as well, there's no hand checking. Guys they're blowing by, and credit the players as well. They've gotten smarter, drawing the calls. They know they're going to get the call. They're getting to the line. The numbers are just inflated, and I think that is also taken away from the entertainment value of the game.
He's right.
As well as the integrity of the game.
Next game for the Raptors, Friday against the Celtics, tip-off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Raptors tonight will go live on YouTube shortly after the game. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.